Good morning, and welcome to virtual worship with us here at the First Parish in Framingham. I'm the Reverend Aaron Stockwell, Senior Minister of this congregation, and I am so glad that you have chosen to set aside some time to spend with us here. The First Parish in Framingham is a part of the Unitarian Universalist Association. We are a faith where it doesn't matter what you believe, who you love, how you move around in the world, what color your skin is, how much money you have or you don't have. What matters is that you're here. We love and celebrate all of who you are. As I said, and as I say every time we gather, Unitarian Universalism is a faith for all souls. So whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, dear one, you are welcome here. If this is your first time joining us, I want to say, wow, it is so good that you are here with us. If you want to learn more information about our congregation, just click the first link below us. That will go to a form where you can fill out as much or as little information as you want, and we'll make sure to get in contact with you. Or simply email our office administrator, Sarah Morrison-Neal, at office@uuframingham.org. Of course, immediately following the service, if you're watching this live, will be our Zoom coffee hour. We're still experimenting with a new way of doing it, where there'll be a receiving line to chat with me, another room where you can discuss the sermon topic, a room where you can meet with our acting music coordinator, Dean Arvidsson, to chat about music, and then just some open discussion rooms as well. There are various ways that you can connect there. Our chancel decorations this morning honor the memory of Jane Clark's daughter, April Lettany Smith, who died 8 years ago this week. Before we go too much further in our service, I want to share a quick announcement from our youth group. Here's Harriet with an announcement.
The youth of First Parish Framingham Unitarian Universalist is hosting a food drive. We are doing this because during the month of March, food banks are in critical need of donations. During this pandemic, more people are suffering from food insecurities and need help getting meals on their tables. We will be collecting food for Hope Food Pantry at the following times in the First Parish parking lot. Saturday, March 6th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And Sunday, March 7th, 12 to 2 p.m. Some food items that are needed are jelly, jam, canned chicken, rice, beef stew, and other non-perishable items. Then household and personal care items that are needed are toilet paper, tissues, paper towels, and cleaning supplies, and personal hygiene products. Thank you for your donations.
Thanks, Harriet, and I hope each one of you, if you are local to Framingham, will find ways to donate to their food drive. Dear one, love has held our congregation together since 1701. It is a love larger than this building, larger than the screens we gather in front of. Welcome to our virtual but very real community. Our opening words are from a writer in Sanskrit, the Kalidasa, who writes, "Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course, lay all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of achievement. These are but experiences of time. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision, and today, well lived, makes yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day." I invite you to consider how you might mark this hour as different from all the other hours of your week. While we are apart, it is important to have rituals that we do separately at the same time. As I light the chalice in our sanctuary, and as the children of our congregation light their chalices at home, you too are invited to kindle a flame or engage in another ritual practice. When your candle is lit, feel free to type into the chat, "The chalice is lit in my home," or "The chalice is lit in our home."
Of our church, the quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
Awe and wonder. It's all around us. Everywhere we go, every minute of the day, there are things happening that we may or may not be tuned into. So today, I'd like to show you a little quick science experiment. It's using things that you probably already have in your home. You're going to need some milk and some dish soap, a Q-tip, and some food coloring if you'd like to do it at home. But first, we're going to try it just as it is. Just the little thing that's going on that you may not even notice is there. So I'm just going to pour enough milk into this dish here to give us, about a ½ inch or so. And then with this Q-tip, I'm going to dip it very carefully into the dish soap, and then ever so slightly just touch it to the surface of the milk. Do you see what's happening? Because I kind of don't. Maybe a little bit of movement, but hard to say that anything really is going on. Let's try it again, this time with some food coloring. The second time, I'm going to pour the milk in just as we did before, but this time, I'm going to drop in some food coloring, just to highlight what's happening here. Anywhere you'd like, any colors. And now we're going to try the same thing. Just a Q-tip, dipped in a little bit of dish soap. Watch what happens here. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Awe and wonder. It's everywhere, all around us, if only we are able to tune into it, to see it for what it is, to put the food coloring into our lives so that we can find it.
This is the time in our service that we set aside for sharing the things which weigh deepest on our hearts. Because we know that when we share a sorrow, it's like we're lifting a burden. There are other people to carry that for us. And of course, when we share joy, it's like we're expanding that joy. Feel free to type those joys or sorrows into the chat. There'll be prompts on the screen that will give a little bit more order to our sharing. Of course, on YouTube, we don't know who else is watching. So do remember that privacy cannot be guaranteed. If there's something that I do need to know about or you want to let me know about, feel free to send me an email.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
I invite you now to call attention and to pay attention to your breath in and your breath out. Feel the chair or the bed or the couch that is supporting you. Feel and imagine your connection to the ground that is beneath you. Spirit of life and love, named and unnamed, but who calls each one of us and knows our true first name, which is beloved. I give thanks for all of the joys in our life, the joys of our community shared moments ago, the things which make us laugh, which make us smile. In tough times, it can be hard to do that. May we each, as we go about our days, find one or two things that bring us joy. And of course, there are things that bring us sorrow, that bring us concern. There are people in our community who are ill, people who go without, people who mourn, people who are survivors of intimate partner violence, people who live and struggle with addiction. May each of them know peace, and may we each also be empowered to lend a helping hand. I think especially of my former congregants in Texas and all of my colleagues and the people of Texas who are coming out of a week and are perhaps still in the midst of a week of no power, no heat, and no water after the effects of a winter storm. May they all be safe. May they all be warm. May they all be fed. And may they each work to ensure that this does not happen again. As we approach 1 year of being aware of the coronavirus and COVID-19, I thank all of those who work in hospitals, nurses, doctors, aides, people who sweep the floors and clean all of the surfaces diligently. I think, too, I give thanks for all of the scientists who made the vaccine, who did the research. I give thanks for their intelligence and their intellect. I also thank those people who took a risk and participated in clinical trials. And I have such deep joy, and I smile when I see you, members of this community, getting your first or your second COVID-19 vaccinations. While we are certainly not out of the woods yet, it is so good to know that we have that protection, that we can start to go about our days yet again. I also pray and send patience to all the parents out there who are juggling working and ensuring that your children complete online learning. I pray for those kids who struggle with this, who miss their friends, who simply cannot focus. I also give thanksgiving for those students who online learning is the thing that works for them. No longer needing to deal with bullies, they can focus. I give thanks too for that. I send a prayer of peace for all of the war-torn parts of our world. I pray for our democracy. I pray for our leaders and our representatives and senators and Congress. I pray for all elected officials. May they do the right thing and center the voices of the most marginalized. And finally, I pray for ourselves to have humility and forgiveness for when we slip up and trip up, when we send that email a little too fast, when we say something that ended up hurting somebody else. Because we are breathing, because we are still alive, we can move into right relationship with our neighbors, with the mystery beyond understanding, and with ourselves. I say these words and do all things for love's sake. May it be so, and amen. Let us now sit in the quiet of our own separate homes, noticing the quiet, however that quiet may be wherever you are, so that we might rest, pray the prayers of our own hearts, or listen. As we end our time together, I invite you to take 3 comfortable breaths. The first is a breath of gratitude for our community. The second breath is gratitude for the strangers in our lives. And the final breath is a gratitude for ourselves. The words for the offering come from John Saxon, who writes, "The light of our chalice would soon flicker and die without the oil that nourishes its flame." Forgot to light the chalice. And just as a flame cannot burn without oil, this religious community cannot survive or thrive without the financial as well as the personal support of its members and friends. The oil that keeps the flame of our liberal religious faith alive and fuels the shared mission and ministry of this congregation. Let us now give freely and generously, an offering to sustain and strengthen our shared religious community, a community of memory, hope, faith, and love. For we are now the keepers of its flame that burns for justice, its dream of beloved community, its vision of a world made whole. Some of you give by check, by automatic withdrawal. If not, I invite you to click on the second link below to support our faith community. The morning offering will now be given and received. Are you paying attention? What do you pay attention to? When was the last time you were caught by surprise and that surprise called you to pay attention and focus on the thing that was right in front of you? I think there are at least 4 different kinds of attention or surprise, or that feeling after you have been surprised. The first is the surprise which calls your attention to the present moment. This is the kind of surprise or sight that takes your breath away. Like when you startle a deer or an owl on a journey through the woods, and you just stop and you go, wow. When I was filming that really cool science experiment that Rebecca demonstrated for the Time for All Ages, I went, wow. And we're going to look back at that experiment actually over the next 2 Sundays as well, the following 2 Sundays. So with that experiment, we're still in the wow, that was so cool phase. Then there's the surprise, which makes you wonder, what else have you been missing? This is the kind of surprise that you feel when you're driving on the highway, and all of a sudden you see out of the corner of your eye a car in your blind spot. And if you're like me, you wonder, what else have I been missing? Then there's the surprise that brings your attention to the things that you have seen time after time. In Newton Center, where I went to seminary, there was a tree that was next to the road as you were driving up to go to the seminary campus. And about 50 weeks out of the year, it was just a tree. It was green. It blended in with all the other trees. But for about 2 weeks or 3 weeks out of the year, it was this gorgeous goldenrod. And then there's the attention that calls you to further attention, to ask questions and to get curious and be inquisitive. The congregation that I served in Lawrence, Kansas, helped out every 2 months in a soup kitchen, feeding a largely homeless population. I was always glad to go and serve that population, but I also always wondered about their stories. Why were they on the diner end of this and not serving? Why was it tough for them to find food? What is so broken in our society that means that some go without and others don't have to worry about food? What are the things that you pay attention to? Someone once said, I think it was the former president of my seminary, Nick Carter, he said that if you want to look at what a congregation values, don't look at its mission statement. Look at how the congregation spends its money. The budget is a statement of morals, and you can go beyond just the line items, but what those line items actually fund. Personal budgets are statements of values as well. The education reformers Nancy Foss Sizer and Theodore R. Sizer wrote in their 1999 book, The Students Are Watching, Schools and the Moral Contract, these words. To find the core of a school, don't look at its rule book or even its mission statement. Look at the way in it people spend their time, how they relate to each other, how they tangle with ideas. Look for the contradictions between words and practice. With the fewer contradictions, the better. Try to estimate the frequency and honesty of its deliberations. It'll always want to spruce up for visitors, but its hour-by-hour functioning is what is important. Judge the school not on how it keeps, not on what it says rather, but on how it keeps. This book was a little bit groundbreaking at the time because it said that students learn not just from the classroom, but also the rituals that schools create. And I don't mean rituals like pep rally or morning assemblies, but rather the ritual of interactions, the way of being in the classroom. The Sizers were both school principals, but they spoke of that act of leading and administering schools, not with that language, but as keeping school. What the Sizers write a little bit before that is that the rules don't come out of books in schools, but rather they come out of the relationships that people have with one another. They write, in small and voluntary associations, shared norms emerge, which make it unnecessary to develop elaborate sets of rules. The rules that last come out of environments, not books. The relationship between the needs of the community and individual freedom is not something arbitrarily imposed. It is rather arrived at through explanation, exploration, and persuasion. Well, to take all of this further, how do we spend our time as a congregation? How we treat one another, and yes, how we spend our money, that all ends up being a statement of our beliefs or philosophy. And that is more powerful than a mission statement that we have but is forgotten. That's all about the quality of our community. We know this, right? So let's take all of what I'm saying a few steps further. I believe that how we spend our time as individuals, how we spend our attention, the budget of our attention, if you will, is also a statement of our values. Attention is a unit of measurement of the things we care about. Do you have a personal mission statement? Have you ever sat down and come up with a list of values? No? That's fine. That's okay, because there would likely be a gap as to what your stated beliefs are, way of being is in the world, and how you actually are. So what if you spend a few weeks studying your life, keeping track of the things that you did, the quality of your conversations, the places where you spent your time, the Zoom rooms that you frequented, the people that you hung out with or spoke with. Yeah, sure, money spent, food you ate, how you were when you weren't on a work Zoom call or when you were at home. What would happen with this data? What would you gather? Well, first of all, you don't need to spend immense amounts of time doing this, maybe just a few moments of mindfulness or just journaling at night. So what happens when you begin to pay attention? Well, first, you have to figure out how you feel about what you're paying attention to. Mary Oliver's words are pretty clear about that in her book, Our World, which is part memoir and part eulogy to her long-term partner, the photographer Mary Malone Cook, who Oliver just refers to as M. Mary Oliver writes, "It has frequently been remarked about my own writings that I emphasize the notion of attention. This began simply enough to see that the way the flicker flies is greatly different from the way the swallow plays in the golden air of summer. It was my pleasure to notice such things. It was a good first step. But later, watching M when she was taking photographs, then watching her in the darkroom, and no less watching the intensity and openness with which she dealt with friends and strangers too, taught me what real attention is about. Attention without feeling, I began to learn, is only a report. An openness, an empathy was necessary if the attention was to matter." Oliver reminds us, pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it. So with that list of places or things that got your attention, notice how you feel, because if you don't, it's just a report. When you pay attention to your life, when you pay attention to how you spend your time, a few other things happen. First of all, we slow down. Now, that's a great thing. The other thing that happens is you enter into a sense of connection or communion. Your paying attention becomes a sacrament. I should unpack those words because in our Unitarian Universalist setting, we have different feelings about sacrament and communion. UU theologian Richard Grieg explains it this way: the sacred is shown within the concrete, the infinite within the finite. Barbara Brown Taylor reminds us that anything can be a sacrament, by which I mean an outward and visible sign of an inward and spiritual connection. Sacraments take work, but if you're paying attention, even a mail-order catalog can become a sacrament. Taylor continues on to say that the sacrament of the catalog creates more than reverence in me. It creates a painful awareness of my part in the felling of a forest. It weaves me into the web of cause and effect, reminding me of my place in the overall scheme of things. If sacrament or communion don't work for you, paying attention invites you in to the interdependent web of existence. Paying attention, pausing for just a moment to where the owl or the deer has bounded away or flown away, to the cars on the road, yes, even on Route 9 or the Pike, to the tree that is brilliantly golden for a few weeks. Paying attention to your painting, to the individuals and communities in our community that need help. Doing all of this paying attention means that we become connected. This is one way that we live into our first source of our religious tradition. Direct experience of mystery and wonder. So as you pay attention, and as you notice the things that you pay attention to, what emerges from this is a pretty good sense of your values, your way of being in the world. As I said before, attention is a unit of measurement about the things we care about in this world. And what you measure, you can change. If after studying your life you realize that there's a gap between what you think you value and what you actually do value, well, you have an opportunity to change. Because you're breathing, you still have time to change. Now, one of my most favorite movies from the last few years is Greta Gerwig's movie Lady Bird. I don't need to give a spoiler alert here because there isn't much of a plot. It's just the main character's senior year at a Catholic high school in Sacramento. In one scene, she meets with the school principal, Sister Sarah Joan, who, after reading her college application in Sacramento, remarks, "You know, you write about this city with such love, such affection." Now, most of the movie, Lady Bird, has been plotting and scheming of ways to escape Sacramento, wanting it to leave for the West Coast where she believes culture is. So she's kind of taken aback when Sister Sarah Joan says that she's written with such love about Sacramento. Lady Bird responds, "I just paid attention." Sister Sarah Joan responds back, "Isn't that the same thing? Love and attention?" If you pay attention, if you stop and pay attention and slow down, you cannot help but fall in love with the world. You become more familiar with it. And that's what the world needs, a deeper sense of connection. And we can gain that by paying attention. This creation and the noticing of where you pay attention creates a storehouse of awe. And we need awe during these times, don't we? It can help us make these times feel a little less overwhelming. Our denomination's president, Susan Frederick Gray, wrote, "In these times, it is essential that we find ways in how we gather, in how we worship, and individually in practice, to breathe life into that which reminds us of our power, our humanity, our compassion, and our interdependence. In these times, it is crucial that our communities engage in the practices and spirit that feed the resilience we need to stay connected in the work of nurturing a world of justice and peace." Over the next few weeks, I'll be exploring the art of paying attention, which is the art of meaning making. Our Christian siblings observe during these next 6 weeks the season of Lent. These 40 days commemorate the length of time Jesus fasted in the desert before beginning his public ministry. It is a time when Christians may engage in deepening with other spiritual practices, not just fasting. Spiritual practices are any sort of practice that demands attention. Of course, our Jewish siblings are getting ready to celebrate Purim next week, a holiday whose story features a villain called Haman. And when they're reading and hearing the story in the synagogue, everyone boos and hisses and stamps their feet and uses noisemakers and cymbals whenever the name of Haman is mentioned. Certainly during that service, you have to pay attention. Of course, it's important to remember that some Unitarian Universalists also have these practices. There are Christian Unitarian Universalists and Jewish Unitarian Universalists as well. While for some of us, meaning making is an art, something hard-won, done under the guidance of a mentor, a therapist, a coach, or a colleague. For others, it is a sort of craft, something done over and over and over again. Tune in over the next couple of weeks for further thoughts on this. So, my friends watching this, wherever you are, I invite you to pay attention to the things that caught you by surprise, the things which call you to focus, to pay attention to what caught you by surprise and the things that make you wonder, how much else have you missed? Pay attention. You might notice something again for the first time. Pay attention and focus on something intensely for study. Throughout the week, make note of what you pay attention to. Dig deeper. How does it reflect your deeply held values? Is there a difference between what you say you do and what you actually do? Pay attention, dear one. May it be so. Our time together is drawing to an end. But before you close this browser window, I invite you to blow out your candle or engage in another ritual of goodbye. And I invite you to type into the chat, "I carry the flame," or "We carry the flame." Send you forth with these words of benediction. As we close this web browser in just a few moments, may we take the light of love out into the world and use it to brighten our pathways. And when we need to rest or recharge, be challenged or affirmed, may that light guide us safely back. May we hold the light always and the light hold us always. Amen. And go in peace.